Hi, I'm Mary Beth Lynn, your systems and delegation coach, and I love getting to help travel advisors go from overwhelmed to being in control CEOs. I have a bunch of free resources for you as you go through Prep for Wave Week. You can scan the QR code or text the number below. I want to send you a couple really awesome things that are going to help you not be overwhelmed when the wave hits.
Running a travel business can be overwhelming, but imagine if there was a single tool that helped you look professional, stay organized, was easy to use, and affordable. That's just what Travefy does. Travefy gives you the essential tools you need to look like a travel biz pro. Travefy is the most trusted system used by over 30,000 travel brands worldwide. So get started with a system that helps you get back to the joy of planning travel and run your travel business like a pro with Travefy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Prep for Wave Week. If this is your first presentation, which I hope it's not because we're already on Growth Day, welcome. My name is Rita M. Perez. I am your host of Prep for Wave Week, and you might know me from the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur podcast as well. Today is Growth Day, so we're talking about things that can really expand your business. And this was a highly, highly requested topic, so I cannot wait to dive in. We're going to be talking all sorts of trends in travel and also how to spot trends within your travel business. I have fan favorite. She's really an industry icon, Angela Hughes of Trips and Ships Luxury Travel with me. This is not her first rodeo on Prep for Wave Week. She was on the first ever Prep for Wave Week. So welcome back, Angela.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here. And when you say we go way back, I feel like we go way back because we've done
Yeah.
together. Yeah. Since your beginning of your podcast, even. So that's great.
Yes, yeah. I'm like, like reflecting on the past 5 years of this event and then the podcast because they both started in 2021.
Yeah.
It is crazy, but it's always an honor and a joy. Our conversations always pack a punch, and we don't know where they go. We don't know
I
where
know
they end
we're
up.
basically almost having a wellness
Yes.
conversation. We're starting a wellness podcast, everybody, because we just got off an hour of that. So
Yeah. Yeah. So for people that might not know who you are and what you do within the industry, can you just share a quick little blurb and then we'll jump right into all the trends?
yeah, well, every day I ask myself, what do I do when I wake up? But yeah, so I'm Angela Hughes. I'm 40 years in the business. I was a kid growing up in this industry, but I do have a master's degree in travel and tourism and geography. I'm a college professor with BYU and BYU Pathway on any given semester. Right now, I'm working with the Pathway program with international students, but I do work in the luxury travel space. And I think my new claim to fame is my brand new community that I just developed called Women Who Wander. So that's kind of exciting. And that'll probably work into some of the topics that we're talking about today, of trends, because that's a hot community. So I'm all over the place from private consulting to talking with you, Rita. So just happy to be here.
Yeah, it's really, you have, I would say, almost like this travel industry empire because it's not only your agency, but you also do a lot of education within the space. So
Yeah.
it's pretty much leading through travel and like there's all different pathways that kind of get you there.
Yeah, and hopefully things will keep moving on as things evolve. Trends are changing, AI's changing everything, and so we need to be quick to adapt. So I
Oh,
love that
yeah.
you're doing this episode. I love that you're doing this series.
Yes, and I love that you also mentioned AI. We do have an AI session, but I wonder, like, we might touch on that a little bit here
Yeah.
today. So as we speak now, kind of like going into the end of 2025, can't already believe that I'm saying it, starting to look at 2026. What are some of like the travel trends that you're kind of seeing start to come to fruition, like how people are traveling, destinations that they might be going to, products that are selling really well?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the way that we're selling travel is changing. So let's just kick
Wow.
that off with AI. AI is going to fundamentally change the way we sell and buy
Oh,
travel.
yeah.
And next year will not look like this year. And that's a whole topic for itself. So we'll save that for somebody else or for your podcast. Let's do a podcast on that.
Yeah.
Because I've been talking a lot about it. You've been talking a lot about it. Um, Kali's been talking a lot about it. It's here to stay, and that's fundamentally going to change everything that we do. And
Right.
people needed to be ready. But in terms of what the travel piece is looking like from a consumer point, shorter bookings right now. we're back to last minute bookings. I was late to this phone call because I was just finishing up a $20,000 Italy trip that's leaving in 6 weeks, September, high season.
Wow.
Yeah. And people are booking shorter right now because of that window of opportunity. I mean, they're waiting to see with their portfolios, with the tariffs, with the dollar dropping and changing, what they can do. And so we're seeing last minute bookings.
Yes.
With all of our bookings, we're seeing a lot more transformational and purpose driven trips. And I think we've been seeing that with the solo. Like I said, I've got my solo and Women Who Wander community that we're relaunching again this year. We started that 5 years ago, but now this is the time to really grow on that, because women over really 50 years old are fueling a brand new segment of the market that we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
So I think the rise of small ship and expedition cruising just remains hot. Like
Yes.
by the time you see this video, I will have been to Greenland on an expedition. You know, we're really stretching and reaching to really all ends of the earth now with expedition.
Right.
And then I
Right.
think be leisure. And when I say that, like kind of business leisure, like I'm in New York City right now doing this podcast, working remote, work from anywhere. I'm always working from anywhere. And
Right.
then I think wellness and hyper-personalization, the regular types of things that we've been talking about for the last 5 years, still make for strong demand.
Right. You mentioned transformational travel, and I feel like this means something different to everybody. So
Yeah.
what are you seeing that like, or what does transformational travel mean to you and your clientele?
Well, for me, I think it's something that transforms your soul. I think that's a great way to talk about it.
Uh-huh.
So prior to COVID, I ran probably a decade of humanitarian tourism where I wasn't making any money, but it was a give back. And I was transformed from working in what I call the garbage dumps of the world,
Yeah.
more so than when I working in the luxury space. And we've talked about that.
Mhm.
I think God's in the garbage dumps. And that's where I felt like I was changed as a person, because I was doing something that was meaningful for me and traveling with some type of purpose. So
Mhm.
that looked different. Now that could also be for somebody, it could be cultural immersion where they
Right.
come on and they have a local experience, and maybe they're in with the Buddhist monks and they're meditating and doing yoga and pondering and not just sightseeing, or maybe they're cooking and learning something that fulfills that goal. For somebody last week on my Tahiti trip, it was about painting what she saw when she got back. She's a really renowned painter and came home and just painted everything that she saw. And then, regenerative, where like, maybe you're sustaining something, you're
Mhm.
improving a destination. I mean, it means something for everybody. So
Correct.
whatever changes your person, your soul.
Yeah, and I love that because it's not necessarily that somebody's coming to you and asking for you, I want a trip because I need to transform. They're
Yeah,
coming
nobody's
to you like
coming.
for
Yeah,
right.
nobody's coming saying I need a transformation, but you've always been driven by
Pick
something
up.
that you want to change within you. Like travel
Right.
advisors are solving a problem somebody can't solve for themselves.
Correct. Oh, I love that you brought that in because I feel like that also ties in with like the AI conversation in
Yes.
terms of there's just certain things that AI can't do. So if somebody's relying like on an AI trip planner or just going on any general AI to plan a trip, there's just too much nuance when it comes to travel nowadays that the AI will never be able to pick up on.
Well, you can't fundamentally know what's inside somebody's brain. Like
Right.
anybody can map out a trip, and AI is just doing it better. I mean, we always had the do it yourself hackers, that's what's made all of the big aggregators so successful, from the Trip Advisors to the
Oh yeah.
Expedias to the Airbnbs. Those were all people that were doing it themselves anyway. So that's not like that's not going to change those people. That's just going to fuel them to do it even savvier. But at
Hmm.
the end of the day, like the clients I just got off the phone call with, I mean, they want high touch service. They want to know that these points are done. And at the end of the day, they don't want to book it.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can go out to AI and see what they want to do, but they're not going to sit and book it. And maybe AI can go ahead and book it for them, but how do they know what kind of driver they're going to get? How do they know the chef they're going to be working with? Who's
Yeah.
their guide that's going to be picking them up? Who's touring them? and then who's the brain power behind it? I'm recommending and suggesting things. AI can suggest things and they can suggest the trendy things and what's hot. But what if I know some hidden secret in the amalgam that you
Exactly.
don't know, that nobody's going to tell you about? And some
Exactly.
chef and some cook who's amazing, and some little, 90-year-old Italian mother in Sicily that you need to be with.
Yeah. And you make a really great point when it comes to like marketing to that type of ultra luxe, ultra customized clientele. And I've been mentioning this a little bit on the podcast recently. Like that clientele doesn't care about travel tips. They want to know that you know your stuff
Yeah,
because they're not going to be like looking at those travel hacks and things. They don't want to know it. They want you to know it
right.
so that you do it for them.
Right. Yeah. And they're not going to do that. And that's a beautiful thing about being in the higher end space.
Uh-huh.
That space doesn't have the time or the energy. They,
Mhm.
they want people to do things for them, and we want to do it for them. And
Right.
am I using AI? Absolutely. Like I'm going to go out there and, can I find a train schedule 10 times faster than I could a year ago? Absolutely. Is
Mhm.
it saving me time on, telling somebody how to get their visa? Absolutely. For all the reasons we should be using AI as travel planners, but it
Right.
it will never replace how amazing I am.
Yeah. No. No, and
I
then
don't mind
like,
shouting that from the rooftop.
yeah, I mean, everybody, like your brain is a bank of
Yeah,
information, and I need everybody to realize that there's so
right.
much power. And I feel like this comes into like the professional fee, the retainer conversation as well, because there's a time and place to do it, but you have to value that like
Right.
knowledge bank that you've built up over the years, because that is what is going to put you in a different space than a different travel advisor.
Yeah, human experience is huge, and you cannot replace, my 40 years of being there, doing it on the ground. How we do it,
Yeah.
it's what's changing. But I'm still the brain power behind the amazingness of what we offer our people.
Yeah. Yeah. So with there's obviously lots of changes that are happening in the global space right now in the world, and that's crafting how some of these
Yeah.
trends are popping up. How are you kind of like looking at what's going on in the news and able to shape like, oh, okay, so I think consumers are going to be doing this in the future?
Yeah, and I write, and obviously you see that I put a lot out on this because being a professor of geography and travel and tourism,
Hmm.
for one, I'm always on the geopolitical, geoeconomic side of things. So let's take what I just wrote about a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
Well, actually last week, but by the time this airs,
Uh-huh.
would be the Thailand Cambodia crisis that's going on.
Right.
First of all, we need to understand like what's happening. We need to educate people, and then we need to help people pivot. If indeed that crisis spread and you could no longer do Phuket and Bangkok and all of these other things, um, we need to quickly learn to pivot based on geopolitical and crises, whether it's
Mhm.
weather crises, um, whether it's an economic crisis. But the biggest things right now are probably war crises that we're dealing with. Because look how
Right.
fast, like Israel, and that impacts a huge geographical region just by perception.
Exactly. Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's where we as educators, as guides, need to help people understand that, hey, guess what? Morocco's safe. You're
Hmm.
not even close, but because you think in your little geographical sphere in your mind
Yep.
that everybody's lumped together, Cyprus, Greece, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, they're all being
Jordan.
impacted by an Israel war that they have nothing to do with. And they're,
Right.
you know, and based on where you come from, if you're European, for instance, you're not bothered by that. You're still going to Egypt and Sharm el-Sheikh.
Right.
That's not your problem. If you're American, you're scared to death. And Americans are not traveling there. And I'm like, this is a great time to travel to Egypt.
Right.
But you're afraid you're 2 hours away. You might, you know, it's like people would not go to Italy when we first launched Ukraine because they were so worried. I was on the
Hmm.
Ukraine Poland border crises volunteering, and Poland was running as business as usual. You wouldn't know that there was a war next door, but the
Yeah.
fear factor of having something shoot over kept people away and still keeps people away.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I know lower Danube cruises also got a hit because I
Super.
believe Romania is at the end of that, and people just thinking Romania is so close in proximity.
Well, we actually had crossover into some of those with refugees, and people fear. I mean, this is the mindset of people. They fear refugees. They fear where refugees are moving to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's crazy for me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Mexico, I mean, I've heard this from clients before when we had a big Mexico earthquake in Mexico City. Some
Yeah.
of my clients were like, we're not going to Cancun. We're afraid too many Mexicans are going to come there from the earthquake. And I'm like, okay, Mexico is Mexico
Yeah.
and they are Mexicans. And so
Yeah.
they're maybe going to shift there, even though that's not even geographically close. But that just told me right there, like, even Americans don't know Mexico. You know, that's how
Yeah.
dumb we are with our geographical reference.
Well, even at the time that we're recording this, there was that big earthquake that happened in Russia, lots of tsunami warnings, Japan, Hawaii, West Coast of the United
Yeah.
States. Do you think like that will have any bearing on how people change their travel or adjust?
I think weather related is very short lived.
Okay.
You know, an earthquake going on, or, you know, an earthquake, if there's huge damage, obviously people are not probably rumbling up to like Lao and Miramar right now. And Miramar we
Uh-huh.
wouldn't anyway because of civil riots. But
Right.
um, you know, earthquakes, big damage causes problems.
Hmm.
Whether you're afraid of a tsunami, I don't think so. I think that's that's going to be a couple days warning and we're going to move on. Volcanoes, we've seen how volcanoes change landscape and travel, especially with like Iceland. I mean, you
Hmm.
were probably too young, but you know, like a decade ago when that thing blew off, it
Yeah.
changed air travel all across Europe. We had just disasters going on with getting people to and from all of Europe
Yeah.
with the ash that was blowing into the air. So yes, that can change where we're at. So that is trending. Is that a fear factor for me? Not so much, because you can't predict the craziness
Hmm.
in what's going on with weather right now. So
Yeah. Going back to kind of like the ultra luxe, the ultra customizable type of trips. How are you picking up like where they're starting to travel or where they're interested in traveling? Because they're not going to France to see the Eiffel Tower. They're not going to Rome for the Colosseum. I feel like these are like they want to be in smaller cities, a little bit more intimate, more personal. So how can you pick up on like what's trending in that space?
yeah, so I teach this a lot on stage. You have to watch consumer behavior in other luxury brands. Okay.
Ooh, I love
Yes.
that.
So you're not just watching what's trending in travel, but you're watching what buyers in the luxury, what drives their innovation.
Hmm.
And that's what's going to shift demand for them. So
Hmm.
I actually watch a lot, and I read a lot of, you know, consumer reports on luxury behavior, from Bank of America to Bain to McKinsey. You know, what drives the luxury segment, because
Uh-huh.
you're competing with other high-end brands, from Rolex to Gucci to college spending to cars to Apple products. You know, so what is the luxury consumer buying? Essentially going to trend across travel as well.
Uh-huh.
And so once you start monitoring that, it helps determine where the shift in demand is going to go. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, because you said that and it immediately made me start thinking about White Lotus and kind of like the White
Perfect.
Lotus effect when they go to the different
Yes.
locations and everybody's trying to guess this other location. But I feel like that's also a really great example of the luxury clientele. Obviously, maybe a little bit
Yep.
dramatized because it is a TV show. But I feel like when you're looking at the needs, the property, what it looks like, what it feels like, why people go to these go to these types of experiences, you can start picking up on
Yeah.
the luxury clientele, what they're desiring, and you can also start picking up like what are those destinations or experiences in different parts of the world that might benefit them from that viewpoint.
Well, actually, I mean, White Lotus is such a the movies as a whole. Hollywood continues, or wherever they're filming these days, are continue to drive traffic now. That is such a trend of
Hmm.
going. You know, we saw it in Croatia with geez, what's the series there? I mean, you
Oh,
know,
Game of
well, Game
Thrones.
of Thrones, yes, that's
Yeah.
how much I watch TV. But you know, we see it with Downton Abbey in England and
Yeah.
Harry Potter. You know, you've got families going for all, you know, and I did that. I've done all of, you know, the C.S. Lewis sites with my kids. And, you know, it's whatever the trend is of whatever we were doing.
Right.
people love those destinations. But I think on a bigger scale, and White Lotus is driving certain markets. We saw it drive Sicily, we've seen it drive Thailand. I had clients switch to the Four Seasons because they watched it in Hawaii.
Nice.
Yes. And I'm just like, that's crazy, but okay.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing that you can really watch is probably like the hospitality pipeline. Where are they developing? Where are hotels, and especially boutique hotels, where are they going?
Yeah.
And we saw the trend with like small ship cruising. Expeditions used to just be the polar regions, but now they're like, oh, we're reaching into like the Kimberley Coast in Australia, or now down in Indonesia, or the west coast of Africa, super popular right now for
Yeah.
crazy expeditions. Greenland, super hot.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that too. Where are the supplier brands going to? What's their new hotspot? And kind of like using that to kind of plan out. Because you do have to, like, without like having like the fortune teller ball in front of you, you have to use these types of clues to pick up on what is going to be that big thing.
Well, and the other thing is, I think it's easy to say like follow the money. Where's the global infrastructure developing? Where's venture capital spending their money?
Yeah.
We saw a lot of that over the last 10 years in like Qatar, Saudi, Dubai was pre-COVID, a lot of money being spent there to develop. We have a lot of development in Africa in high-end properties there. It used to just be Indian owned properties, for the longest time in Africa. And now we have high-end infrastructure being built there. The Chinese want to come in and pave a whole road through the Serengeti, which they're extremely opposed to. And I'm extremely opposed to that as well. Where are trains being built at? Well, trains aren't so exciting, but we see trains,
Yeah. I mean, it's exciting here in the States. I mean, here in Florida, we have the Bright Line just came up. They're trying to make a couple other routes.
Yeah,
So
and I
I'm
just
like,
took Bright Line a couple weeks ago, and I was like, brilliant.
yeah,
Miami to Orlando. But in Europe, doing trains from like, high speed from, you know, England to Zurich or whatever it is.
mhm,
Those are things to look at that global. But
yeah,
I think the other thing is just tracking, the social currents of people. What are they doing? What is a cultural current doing right now? And that's where content creation now fuels where we go to,
yeah.
almost to a scary degree, where you've got 18-year-olds who have, like my kids, 21, been to 67 countries
I
after this
know.
week, and that's ridiculous. You know,
They're
go to some of
they're
these places tell you we're like 65 and retired, but
right. Right.
content
And I feel like
creation takes.
that's a trend on its own too, because you had mentioned the bleisure, and that makes me think of like so many people who are wanting to become digital nomads and also wanting to become expats and living in Portugal or living in Spain or living in Asia, different parts of the world too. They're also shaping what's happening in travel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm running a big multi-million-dollar business from hotel rooms with this computer on a pillow right now.
Yes.
But people are like, I don't know how you keep up with your life. And I'm like, it's so fun right now. And I feel like it's a season. We don't know how much longer this is going to last with the global
Mhm.
climate. Let's just live it up while we can. And with the economy,
Yeah.
that's a scary thing right now. The economy
Yes.
shifting and the dollar changing. I've been writing a lot on that and getting that news out there. Japan was really hot after COVID because the prices were so good. We had, a dollar that has never been so low, or, so powerful there, and the yen so low. But that's changing with their index. And Europe,
Yeah.
I mean, I was in the UK a couple weeks ago, and I was like, whoa, I'm going to hurry and pay off all my daughter's tuition who goes to school over there today, because the pound just keeps getting stronger and
Yeah.
stronger, and I'm just paying more and more. And it's the last year I want to stop paying.
Right.
But it just went to show me that, like, now, like Europe, I'm in Europe every couple weeks, and this will be the most expensive week I've had in probably 5 years, this next month.
Wow.
Yeah, because it goes up 5 cents, everything just costs more on the ground.
Right. How do you think, because I mean, I feel like 2025 is described as super unpredictable, super volatile because we're up, we're down, we're here, we're there.
Yeah.
How is that changing how people experience travel? Like, what are some of the experiences that they're wanting to do with this up down seesaw that we're kind of seeing right now.
Yeah, I want to say in the high end market, we're not seeing changes there. It's just getting more
Okay.
hyper focused on experiential. Like
Okay.
they're demanding even more hyper personalized. So in the high end, where it's impacting people is in the family market, your middle range market, your mass market, where most
Mhm.
travel advisors sit.
Uh-huh.
And we've seen a big shift back to the cruise market. We've seen younger people shift to the cruise market. And when I
Yeah.
talk cruise market, I'm talking anything from NCL Royal and up, you know. So I think, you know, we are seeing that change things, because what a family of five could do 5 years ago compared to what they can do now, it's tight for people.
Yeah.
The economy's tight, and we've got to be cognizant of people not being able to afford to do that. Like, I'm
Mm.
not flying as much business class air. You know, Crimea River, I know everybody, but I'm not going to pay 8,000 for a 6 hour flight now that was 3,000 2 years ago, you know,
Mhm.
to Europe. And
Yeah.
even though I'm a Delta Diamond, I'm flying a lot of Norse over to Europe because you can sit in premium for, 1,500 versus 4,000 on Delta. Like, and that's
Right.
what's happening in the luxury space. Even with my bigger clients, I've seen people who are spend with us 500,000 a year who were like, we're not paying 200,000 for a multi-gen family vacation. We're going
Mm.
to spend 75,000 at Sandals. And that's exactly what they did. They spent 180 on their Disney adventure or Disney cruise last year.
Uh-huh.
They take their adult kids and their two grandbabies. So it is truly multi-gen. We totaled it up. We're like, you spent 180 on that. They were like, we're not paying that this year. And they spent 75 going to beaches. Yeah. And
Interesting.
and that's where I think, like, you got to listen closely to your network, because just because people are in the high-end space, they don't want to be gouged, and they don't want to pay more. I mean,
Right.
when I hear that, I'm like, I don't care what any of the reports are saying or whatever anybody from Bain or Bank of America is saying. I'm listening to, like, the front line tell me that, and that tells me right there what the new trend is.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's charging more without getting more is what a lot of this kind
Yeah.
of seems to point to. Like,
And this whole AI thing with Delta, like determining what
oh my
you're willing to
goodness.
pay. Oh my gosh, let's just do a whole podcast, you and I, on an AI banter. Seriously, I'm like, that just almost drives me insane. Not that there wasn't dynamic pricing anyway, but I'm like, now they're going to determine it based on your zip code and what you're willing to spend and what your patterns
Right.
are. Like, that makes me never want to ever use AI for a flight, and I'm going to clear my cookies every time I shop for a flight.
Well, and that's I'm like, there's a responsible use of AI and like an ethical
You're
use
right,
of
right.
AI, and then you have this,
And
which is
but
not that.
that's coming. I'm telling you, you have something like that, and it just repeats itself with other. Everybody's like, brilliant. We'll do that too. We'll do that in hotels. We'll do that. You know,
Yeah, I know a lot of people have been saying like $200 business class to Italy from Orlando or where like,
yeah.
and they're like, let me
Everybody
take
low
this
bid
word.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there probably will be a collective community of everybody going, we're not going to bid more than this.
Yeah. 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 Because it is crazy to think like even premium economy, you were able to spend like $1,500 and now it's like $3,000 for the same type of product, but nothing's different about it.
That is ridiculous. I know. And I'm
Yeah.
getting more space on Norse on a discounted airline than I got on Air France last week coming home, in
That's
premium.
nuts.
Yeah.
That's
I can't even believe I'm
insane.
endorsing a low cost carrier, but that might be my new brand. I'm just
What would
done
you
paying high airfare. Yeah.
Actually, now that you're saying that too, we need to do the secret word. So the secret word for this session is inspired by that. It's going to be Norse.
Norse. Secret word, Norse.
The secret word
You may
is
not have even
Norse.
heard of it, but
Before we jump off, like looking into 2026, what would you say travel advisors really need to prepare for when it comes to trends or just making sure that clients are happy or trying to break out into that luxury market?
I think right now every advisor, your job is on the line. I don't mean to sound off the siren, but in
Mhm.
2 years, probably 60% of you will not exist if you don't get more savvy with systems and tools.
Mm,
Like,
yep, mic drop.
yeah, mic drop right there, because you're not going to be able to survive what we're going through. This is what the internet was when I was in 92, when everybody was like, internet won't exist. Everybody will use a human, and I look back at some of those articles that, we had back then. And I remember thinking, I'm going to be an early adopter of this internet thing. I mean, I was a college professor, a young college professor, still in my graduate degree or still in my graduate program. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy that we can search this and we can get this, just the same thing that people are saying today. I've been on AI for 4 years thinking where the rest of you been?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I'm like, you've got to shift, you've got to be savvy, and you've got to define who you're going to sell to right now. And that's where in the luxury space, make that your market. I've been, singing that song for a long time. Those clients are hard to come by, but we won't even be having this conversation with you in a couple of years because that middle mainstream market is going to be able to DIY like rip and speed, and they already can.
Yeah. Yeah. They have it at their
fingertips. Bring
fingertips.
value. You got to bring value and be amazing and own it,
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I'm so glad that we were able to chat real quick today about talking about lots of different trends and how to figure out like what are going to be those trends that are coming up before they really explode out the gate. You have an amazing Facebook group. So let's share like how can people stay connected with you, join the Facebook group, maybe even join your team at some point.
Yeah, I'd love to tout that out. So Luxury Travel Social Media and Marketing is my Facebook group. We're about 57,000 strong there. I also have Luxury Travel University, which is my private consulting side for people who need help in the industry. And then if you want to join our awesome boutique luxury premium host agency, you can find us at luxuryhostagency.com. Maybe I needed to look that up. I think that's it.
We'll make sure to add all the links and everything below for you too. But thank you, Angela, so much for being here and always giving like mic drop moments, little gems along the way too.
Well, you're amazing. I appreciate everything that you're doing. You guys are going to want to follow her, stay in touch with her. She's talking good stuff. I love working with her. So
thank you, Angela. And remember, there are a couple more presentations today at Growth Day for Prep for Wave Week. A couple other things to remind you of is that we do have this awesome swag bag so you can see what kinds of promotions and offers there are from some of our partners at the event. And there's also a little virtual trade show that's brand new this year, so you can do like a 10-minute snippet of different programs that might be beneficial to your business. So definitely take a look at all the goodies. Make sure that you're registered. prepforwaveweek.com/register if you're new around here. But that is it for us, everybody. We will see you next time. Bye.